these are not quotes from this book. These are my interpretations that I wrote on the inside cover of the book.
Okay. And you took a photo of it?
This book was called Make Prayers to Ravens. That's the name of the book. Make
When was this book written?
In the 1970s. It was basically an anthropologist that went and lived with the Koyukon people in Alaska for an extended period of time. And Nelson was his last name. I can't remember his first. Richard K. Nelson, I think. Incredible. Yeah, Make Prayers to the Raven, Richard Nelson. Oh, incredible book. Okay, so when I got to the section on black bear, they had a full chapter on black bear. And they called them taboos. But okay, so when a bear is found, and these are like kind of spiritual rules that they use in bear hunting. But if you find a bear, you must speak very cryptically about your plans to go back, or the spirit, because the spirit of the bear is aware and he'll hear you. So like if I went out hunting and I found a bear sign, but I didn't kill the bear, and I came back to my house that night, and I wanted you to come with me, I would be like, Joe, tomorrow I would like for you to come with me around the mountain just to see what we can see. Oh. And you would know exactly what that meant. You would be like, winkety wink.
So the idea is that your thoughts project and that the bears are so aware.
They assign bears a very high level of spiritual ranking and power, and only second to the wolverine. They have like this hierarchy of animal powers, and so basically, you can't talk about your plans. You got to be cryptic in the way that
those plans will get out there.
Because the bear will hear you and he will he'll do something different. So that's rule number one. You should never point at a bear because he will feel you. So if you're hunting, your first instinct is to, oh, there's a bear, point at it. No pointing, because he will see you.
I'm one of those people that loves calling bullshit.
Oh,
I'd love to call bullshit on this, but I don't know if I do. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a thing about animals when you are staring at them. I feel like they get like just some sort of a little frequency, like a little beep, 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 a little message from the distance where they get uncomfortable.
Well, I read these to Jan Spatelis, and he kind of functionalized every one of these. He was like, well, of course, you don't want to point. He's like, think about the movement that you're making when you're pointing. You're drawing attention to yourself. Because he was trying to, like, say, trying to find a functional value. And I'm not saying that I believe these, Joe.
I'm saying I believe them. I'm saying I believe them. Bears are psychic. I'm going with that.
So the third rule was that you talk to the bear as you shoot it. You tell him what to do. So you like sweet talk the bear. And this whole chapter has examples. Like, they did interviews with these people. They had examples of them doing this. But basically, when a bear is in your sights and you need him to do something particular, because if you're hunting, a bear might be behind a tree. He might be facing you. You don't have a good shot. You're supposed to sweet talk him. And they gave examples of it. It'd be like, dear friend, I really would like for you to turn slightly to the right. And the bear will do it.
I watched that episode of Meat Eater where you and Ranella were hunting bear. Were you in Montana?
Montana.
And there was a bear that was how many hundreds of yards away?
800.
800 yards away, and he winded you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, winded us like that. But
yeah.
It was...
What I mean by winded, for people who don't know what we're talking about, the wind came from behind you and reached the bear, so your scent reached the bear from 8 football fields away, which is fucking bananas. Yeah. That's so far.
Yeah.
And that bear started running.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that you could attribute to his behavior.
Oh, there was no question that the bear smelled us. I mean, that's not, in my mind or Steve's mind, really debatable. But there is more to the story that would help make sense, Joe.
Okay.
Because we were basically at the foot of a mountain, and to our right was basically a very steep, straight-up mountain. So we're sitting here. The wind is hitting us directly in the back of the neck, and it's basically creating a wind channel that directed our scent right to that bear. Where if it had been open country, I feel like by the time our scent got there, it would have dissipated. So it was, and there were 6 of us. You know, you just see me and Steve on the screen, but behind us was
cameraman and all that jazz.
At least 4 other people. May have been 7 of us.
A lot of smelly motherfuckers.
It's true.
The other thing is the way it's been described to me is that kind of makes sense. Is skunks. We can smell a skunk a mile away. And it's weird. Like, a skunk smells weird. Like, you know, you're driving down the road in your car and you're like, I smell skunk. Like, somehow or another out there, that minuscule amount of skunk scent can get into your car and hit your nose. Someone explained to me, now imagine that times 100. And that's how a bear can smell things.
Right.
And I'm like, what?
You know, it boils down to, when you look at the physical structure. I mean, you know, we have these olfactory receptors in our nose that help us smell, like just little receptors. A bear would have, and I've forgotten the stats, thousands more times surface area of those receptors. So, I mean, they just have more mechanisms for receiving olfactory information.
More than a bloodhound even.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a bear, as I understand it, has the most powerful nose in the world of any animal. That's what I understand. But this is the way I've heard it described to me that made a lot of sense. Like, if you were to walk into your house and there was a dish of lasagna cooking in the oven, and you walked in and you're like, I smell lasagna. It's just what would register, lasagna. A bear would walk in and he would say, I smell cooking cheese. I smell warm tomato paste. I smell a pastry, or I smell, you know, the noodles. I smell sausage. I smell, like, he could smell the layers. I mean, essentially, it's a scent. That's one of our weakest things as humans, is our scent. We don't use it in a defensive way at all, really, and so it's hard for us to understand. But man, the animal kingdom runs off their noses, and it's almost like a superpower to try to comprehend how a bear could smell you that far is hard.
Yeah, our senses suck in comparison, right?
Yeah. It's a wonder we ever survived.
So what were the other taboos?
Okay, yeah, there's a few more that are pretty interesting. Always wear new boots when you're spring bear hunting. So don't wear a pair of boots that you've worn before. Always skin a bear where it is killed. Never haul or drag a bear.
Why would you not wear old boots? Because of the scent?
Man, when you read this book, you would get a sense for the worldview of these people and the way that they think. And if that would, your question would be answered if you read the rest of the book. I mean, they just, like, stuff happens and it becomes law. You know.
And why don't you drag a bear? Who knows?
A lot of these were just stated.
Right.
It was just like, this is what you do. I think it has to do with respect, though. This one was interesting. When you kill a bear, you slit his eyes before you skin him so that he does not see you and him become offended after his death.
Wow.
So you walk up to the bear, the first thing you do, you slit his eyes, because they perceive these as, like, spiritual animals that have power. They don't. They very rarely keep the skins of bears. They don't want a bear skin in their house because they think it holds, like, authority or power. So the bear hide is not used as, which you'd think in the Arctic that this would be like an essential for their clothing and whatnot, but they're killing caribou and other things. And
I think I stumbled across the eye slitting on a video of Make the Prayers to the Raven.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I haven't even seen this.
Well, they're not even slitting the eye. They're actually removing.
They're removing his eyes.
Wow.
And as I get down to these last two, I'll tell you kind of my conclusion of why this is intriguing to me and how I think it relates to me as someone who I don't, well, I'll tell you how it connects. But the last thing, well, close to the last thing, bear death ceremonies are second only to human funerals. So when you kill a bear, like, they have an absolute, like, ceremony. People all over the village would cook food, and this would be old, more ancient stuff. I don't know that, I couldn't say how these people live today, but basically, like, extreme respect for that animal. Oh, only second to a human funeral. would be the death of a bear, and they would have these like ceremonies and cook and get together, and it was you know, I feel that way when I kill a bear. I mean, like I don't take it for granted, man. And I've killed a fair number of bears, and like each one is like significant to me.
Do you feel differently when you kill a bear than when you say you kill a duck or something like that?
No, I'm not one of those guys. If I could say those guys, and I'm not pointing any fingers.
Right.
A bear is an animal. I mean, I do not attribute him. I don't want to give him. I don't want to anthropomorphize him too much. Right. But they are special animals, and they are an incredible animal, especially when you understand where they fit inside of the ecosystem. They're an indicator species. Like basically wherever you have bears, you can be guaranteed that a whole bunch of stuff underneath that bear is in order in terms of the ecology of the land. There's probably salamanders there. There's, you know, the squirrels are probably in good shape. I mean, they're an indicator species. And so to me, they represent something really special.
So all animals that you kill have a deep significance to you. And bears are just another one of those animals.
They are. But they are of particular interest to me.
Right.
And I feel like we have the right, for no reason other than that we just want to make something special. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, just like I have chosen in my life that the Newcomb family, when we kill a bear, it's a big deal. For no good reason. Why you do that, Clay? Why not when you kill a squirrel? Well, we just like bears, man.
They are special.
Yeah, yeah.
Just by their abilities, just by how difficult they are to come upon. I mean, there's a reason why they bait bears in a lot of parts of the country. It's because it's hard to get on one.
Yeah,
they're very aware, and their senses are highly tuned.
Yeah.
So it's a significant thing to kill a bear.
Yeah, it is.
And it's also, as you were saying, if you are going to be a person who's involved in conservation, if you're really thinking about it correctly, they have to be managed in a certain way. And if you choose to look at it this way, like all animals, they're a valuable resource. Like deer are a valuable resource. You eat one or you shoot one, your family can eat it for months. That's a lot of food. And the same with a bear. And if you shoot a bear, you're also stopping that bear from killing a whole lot of fawns, a whole lot of elk calves, a whole lot of livestock. There's a lot of things. I mean, that thing has to eat a lot.
Yes, it does.
And a good part of its diet is animals.
Yeah. We just published an article that recounted the study was probably done 10 years ago in Alaska, and this was a brown bear study. And they collared 17 brown bears in Alaska, and they had it was a video collar that took 15-second videos every 10 minutes. And the batteries on those at the time, the technology, they would last for like 60 days. And then the collar would release and they would go gather the collar up. They put them on 17 bears. 7 bears lost the collar, so they had data from 10 bears. And I want to say it was 7 bears. This is going to sound bizarre because even as I read it, like I wanted to just be like, man, this is crazy. But I mean, this came from the biologist in Alaska. Those 7 bears killed over 200 moose and caribou calves in a time of 45 days. I mean, they were just stomping around with the intent to kill moose and caribou calves. And it was a groundbreaking study because, as far as I know, it was the first time that it was video evidence. So I mean, they're watching these bears on video. It was also really cool because they laid out in percentages of time of what that bear did. Like 80% of the time he was asleep. 6% of the time he just stood there. He would stand up and just stand there. Like I want to say only 6% of his day he actually fed. But in 45 days, less than 10 bears killed over 200 moose and caribou calves.
Have you seen the photographs from Yellowstone of the recent, there was a wildlife photographer that captured a famous grizzly bear I want to say it had a number like 399 or something like that. And they caught this bear in the act of killing an elk calf and feeding it to the cubs. It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild because you see the elk calf still has spots. It's real young, and the bear catches up to it, and it's like a big dust up, and even the cubs are duking it out over who gets to eat. It's pretty wild.
Wow.
It's pretty wild because they caught it with a really good wildlife photographer. There's a whole series of photos. See if you can find it. It's very recent. That's a lot though, and that the impact on the species, but it's also for the health of the species. You need a certain amount of them. So you were saying it's a great indicator species, right?
Yeah, and if a bear needs,
there it is.
Oh wow!
What number bear is that? The bear has a number. Yeah, it's 399. Famous grizzly 399 kills elk calf on camera. But it's wild, man. Look at that 7-foot sow, and look at her chasing down that poor little guy. No chance. So what other taboos? Is that the end of
there was
taboos?
one more. There was one more. That a man should stay awake after killing a bear, so that the spirit of the bear doesn't catch him sleeping.
Whoa! How long are you gonna stay awake for?
Well, it's like this kind of. They just say like basically 24 hours.
They attributed a lot of like weird. Do you think that the attribution was due to the fact that they had these complete superhuman abilities in terms of like their senses, their sense of smell, and
again the full context of the book, you see that they do this kind of stuff with a lot of animals. Like they have moose hunting taboos.
Oh.
They have like everything has a way that it's done. And that's really what I kind of appreciated about it, is that they pay attention, and that they had just a scripted way that they did things, which I value. That ultimately turned to respect towards that animal, Yeah. But it is a fascinating book, for sure.
Yeah.
Koyukon people.
Well, it's always interesting when you see people that have lived with animals for generation after generation after generation. So they're passing down like either legends or traditions that are hundreds, if not thousands of years old. And you get a sense of how important these animals were to these people.